because so many problems are solutions to problems, not problems. So people come in and say I'm depressed, and the depression is a solution to a problem. People come in and say I'm anxious, and the anxiety is a solution to a problem. People say I smoke, and that's a solution to a problem. So a lot of problems are solutions to problems. But if someone says no, my problem is just it's faulty pattern matching, they wouldn't use those words, but how I perceive it is, oh, it's faulty pattern matching, that should be okay, I wouldn't mention it. If they came back for a second session and said, oh, it didn't work, I was in this situation, I ended up smoking again, then I would address that there and then, and whatever the circumstances are that they would explain to me about that situation, I would say, this can happen sometimes, it sounds like that needs to be addressed first, because that's what caused you to end up smoking again. So that might happen again in the future, so let's address that. If we can work on that part of it, or you can go away and work on it, it's up to you, but to actually stop smoking, that would just have to be dealt with first. But smoking is a difficult one, so I think hypnotherapy especially, there's a lot of expectation on hypnotherapists around smoking, because so many hypnotherapists do say they can pretty much get it 100% perfect with everyone in a single session. So there's so much pressure on a hypnotherapist for smoking. Clients come in with that expectation, and then hypnotherapists feel really bad when clients don't stop after one session. So then hypnotherapists end up beating themselves up for it, whereas if it's something like depression or something, you don't beat yourself up so much if it's taken you more than one session, because you sort of didn't expect it necessarily to be one session is going to solve whatever's caused that depression. So, and all you can do is expect that you're going to do your absolute best that you can do, and you're going to dedicate your time with the person to being that they are. My opinion is that when you're with a client, that client is the most important person in the world for that therapy session. After it, go back to your life, and everyone else who's supposed to be important in your life is important in your life. But for that moment, your world is, how can I help this person to leave here in a better place than they've come in? And that's it. It's not, as long as you've got that kind of mindset and you put that effort in and that sort of time into dedicating that kind of mindset to them, then you've done what you can do. I think it is awkward, because if you charge in America and over here, most people end up wanting therapy for free. They want it on insurance, or they want it via National Health Service or whatever. So there's one thing, there's not the motivation. If someone's got it for free, they might think, I'll give it a go. If it doesn't work, it doesn't matter, it's not important. So that makes it a bit more tricky, because there's not the motivation to actually do the therapy bit themselves. But the other side is that therapists then don't necessarily feel they need to put in so much effort, because they get paid regardless, and the client gets paid, gets it paid for regardless, so it's not going to be an issue to anyone. Whereas once it gets to paying clients, suddenly it's like, you've got to put in the effort, you've got to do your best, because you will feel really bad if you haven't put your best in and they haven't got anything out of it. But then you still might put your best in and feel bad because they've paid you for something that failed. And the other one is about learning, and learning together. So you're learning together with the client. So it's not about failure, it's which obviously the clients will often see it about failure, but as a therapist I don't see it about failure. I see it as every session you give me feedback about which bits of the last session were good and successful, and where the bits where I was on the right track, and which bits were the bits where I wasn't on the right track, and where I didn't manage to pick up on the things that I should have picked up on. So they get to tell you that. They get to end up saying, well, yeah, I did that task and it didn't really work for me. It just, I did it consistently, I put my effort in, but it just didn't work for me. Okay, fair enough. So what happened then? What stopped it working? Did it work at all? Is it a complete 100% failure, or did it actually, Monday, Tuesday it worked, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday it just had drifted by then? Or so all of it's just feedback. From a therapy point of view, all that is you get feedback, and then you use that feedback for the next session, so you know what not to do and what to do. Obviously there are lots of other options, so you could do things like say, I have confidence in my own abilities, so I will only pay me after you've been treated, and just pay me what you think the treatment's worth. So if you are confident enough, you could do that. So you've got lots of different options. It could be, you don't have to just do a flat hourly fee. A large part of it is what you're going to highlight their spotlight of attention on. Yeah, that's your skill, is choosing what clients focus on. So clients probably have spent a lot of time focusing on negative, bad things, problems, things going wrong. Then you get to the pre-session change bit and all of a sudden you're on the scene, which means suddenly you're focusing them on the same world but different parts of it. So suddenly you're focusing on the fact that a couple of good things did happen between making the phone call and coming to that first session. A couple of good things happened because of making that phone call. A couple of good things happened because they just would have done anyway. The same between sessions. You're focusing on the fact that some good things did happen between the sessions, never mind how bad other things were. So taking relationships, for example, it could be a child who is always bad, and the parent focuses on this child as bad every day. They're not been to school every single day of the week. If you then empathise with them, my common one is I like to do empathy and then lead. So I do things like, it sounds like that was really, really difficult. It sounds like it's been really, really difficult. And you might sort of say, so how did you cope? Suddenly they tell you how they coped. That's a positive. It's a strength. It's something you can build on, something you can work with. If they say, as commonly happens, oh, I definitely didn't cope. So, well, really impressed that you still managed to be here. Given that you didn't cope, the fact that you've managed to make it here, that just impresses me. So suddenly it's like, well, someone else is saying that I've coped, and I can't argue with that anymore. And so you don't have to go any further with it. They know you've got that opinion. They know that's there. It's out there now. So even when someone says bad stuff, it's all been bad, there's nothing good happened, you can still move things forward and build on things. And obviously I'm doing this quite fast-paced and off the top of my head, and making it probably seem quite natural. But in reality, probably your first few times, you'll get halfway through the session. Oh, should have asked, how did you cope with that then, when they told me it was all bad? So, because that's a normal thing that happens. When you start out, you don't instantly think of reframing something and responding in an entirely different way that changes what they're thinking.